If I don't have the family engagements, appropriate family engagements, I'm going to be looking to my peers and my friends, which happens all the time. It's happened forever. But if they're all on social platforms at a young age, it may make me do that same thing also.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now let's get back to the interview.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Dominguez. I'm at Garden City Public Schools as Garden City USD 457 in Garden City. We have about 7,000 plus students on 18 different campuses, and we are located in Southwest Kansas.
Doctor, it's so great to have you here. I love Kansas. It's where some of my family are from, and I'm excited to get some of your insights on how we can keep kids safe on social media and digital devices so they can someday at the age of 16 and above shine online to get the dream job, career, and everything else. We've modified, parents, a couple of our questions here today. So you're going to get a short and sweet with a little bit of a fresh twist at the end on a question that we're going to ask the doctor. Now, for all of our parents joining us here tonight, remember we have some incredible live events. No matter where you're watching this at, Smart Social has incredible events we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Okay, doctor, I want to ask you the first question. I want to get some insights from you on parent education. Every superintendent, we probably got about 180 of them so that are on the podcast. They're all saying, Josh, if we partner with parents and work with them, we can overcome just about anything, which I agree with because parents are our favorite. So, superintendent, as districts implement these cell phone-free policies, which we love nationwide, parents are telling us they're left a little bit in the dark, begging for some strategies that they can also use to work with their kiddos at home. What are your suggestions for districts to increase parent education and engagement around cell phone use?
Thank you for the question. Number one, I have been in education for 30 plus years. So when I was introduced to cell phone, frankly, it was an iPhone in December of 2007. I remember it well. The district said, we're going to purchase your first device and give you an opportunity to be on the device 24/7. So it took education, the education space from, we think students are digital natives. And to a degree, they are in that there's always been an iPhone, there's always been a device, there's always been something that they can get on and use. But to the point now that we have to regulate that there are the dopamine hit, the overuse of the devices sometimes interferes with just their development. So as you stated, 16 and above, hopefully you have the developmental components of it to navigate it, but the algorithm's set up for you to mindlessly scroll and scroll and scroll. So to your question, what can we do with parents? You would have to do workshops and seminars, teach them the various topics of just because there's always been a device available for your student doesn't mean that they're a digital native, and we have to teach them how to use it. When is it appropriate? What apps can they be on? What is legal? What can I share on my platforms that I do allow my kid to be on? You need to provide resource guides for those students. You need to also, and parents, community forums to what are parents seeing, what experiences, what tips, what resources, and we as a school district provide for those individuals, but also the guest speakers that we can provide that can and will be able to help the parent navigate that, but also follow-up strategies of actually habits to do better on our devices. Not, once again, once you come into the classroom, we would only have the four walls to only education goes on in the four walls, but we know learning can take place anytime. So what is that fine line between being totally cell phone free, not having your device, and then having your device? What are the parameters on that?
Yeah, something came to mind, doctor, when you were answering, and it's kind of interesting. Our other superintendents, and I think you'll agree with this, we kind of call this a digital driver's ed world, if you will. You don't just hand your kids at 16 years old and say, hey, go have fun with this car mom and dad just bought you. It could kill somebody. But we as adults, doctor, we grew up, I'm going to call it like the bicycle. We learned how to walk, then we went on a bicycle, and then eventually we got a car at 16. So we knew bicycles, you run into things, you understand, and you blunder around. And we think social media is amazing here at Smart Social, the tools, the AI, the learning that we can do within reason. But kids these days are just basically, if it's a digital driver's ed, they're going straight from walking to cars. And it's just like, here you go, 100 miles an hour. Can it hurt you? Whereas as kids, we wore a helmet and we're bike riding, and there's a limited hurt that we can have because we learned the old school ways, which I love. I'm kind of paraphrasing you in a way, but the native online kids these days, it's straight to, is their brain ready? And I know I'm diving right into the top of it for all of our listeners. For those of you listening to lots of episodes, is their brain ready to go straight into the vehicle, right? And straight into that. So that's kind of what parents are asking is, how do I do baby steps at home, right? What would one of your baby step or dialogue starters or important discussion starter, doctor, catching you off guard here? What would a question be around the dinner table or in the car that a parent could ask their kids to open them up about not too much screen time, but learning screen time, but also understanding why the parents might want to put the phone away sometimes for study time? Give us a little guidance there with your experience.
Well, modeling healthy technology use, first and foremost, that we as adults, there's a lot of dopamine hits for us too. So the algorithm is there so I can swipe, and keep looking, whatever technology, whatever app you're on, the algorithm's going to pick up on that and want me to stay on it. So what habits do you have? And going back to atomic habits or systems, James Clear, 1% better every day, in that I get to do my homework first. I do get to do my chores. And as an adult, model that appropriate behavior, that I'm not on it at the table. I'm not on it all the time, and or distracted driving, because we do have windshield time with our children and our students. So being a good steward of that. But I do, piggybacking on what you said online, we think they're digital natives, and that is a great analogy of a toddler right to a vehicle that does 100 miles an hour. You just wouldn't turn them loose on that. So you have to have parameters, and those are, what is the resource guide? What are the follow-up strategies? What are the decision-making skills that I need to have in my classroom as a teacher? But also how will they transfer to mom and dad? Mom and dad may want help. Mom and dad may say, I need strategies to help get my child off the device. Or they could be all the way to the other side of the spectrum of, I don't want my child to have the phone all the time. It's a safety issue. I want to be able to contact them 24/7. Well, that can be an unhealthy model also, and then definitely unhealthy if you don't have the parameters and, modeling healthy technology skills.
Yeah, so true. Okay, let's dive on to the next topic I've got for you, doctor. Let's talk about the social media's impact on teens. Parents, for those of you listening, you've probably seen a behavioral change in your kids, or superintendents that are watching right now, district leaders, principals. We love you. You're a small town mayor in our eyes, working to keep everything going. And our doctor here used to be a principal as well. I think most superintendents did. So it is not easy. But for all of our listeners right now, we know that there's a behavioral change once you give your kids this phone. And a little bit of a plug, not my book, but a great book. It's called The Anxious Generation. Really talks a lot about how as soon as 2007, really 2010 is when these started getting big. And for all of our listeners, I'm pointing at an iPhone. Really, there's a behavioral change there where all of a sudden kids started to be on their screen, 2015, a lot, to 2025. Doctor, I want to ask you your question. How are you seeing social media impact teens' self-esteem, motivation, and decision-making in your district?
Well, I would say it addresses in that instant gratification versus long-term goals. So the self-esteem, meaning if I'm not posting every day, but I have to post, instead of I need to post, and going from a consumer of it and learner of the device, as far as long-term goal, like you say, there's a great deal to be learned on technology and use of technology and AI, and be able to use it appropriately. The phenomenon, like say, hinder motivation, if it hinders motivation to where I'm just over consuming and, like you say, agitated, it really does make me nervous of people not liking or liking my posts. And we grew up in a time that there wasn't such a thing. So it took a lot longer for anything to get out about you. So, sometimes the motivation of the self-esteem just wasn't there. It wasn't so heightened that I could just be a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old in my school versus the hyper awareness that we have. And to a degree, the decision making, it does hinder that. I mean, because if I don't have the family engagements, appropriate family engagements, I'm going to be looking to my peers and my friends, which happens all the time. It's happened forever. But if they're all on social platforms at a young age, it may make me do that same thing also.
So true. Okay. So, for all of our listeners right now, parents like you are often asking us, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger online? Let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize the red flags. Parents, before we get to the real student, this is from one of our live events. And if your district is a partner, we'd love to have you join us. I used to be one of the top rated social media safety speakers in the country. And dozens of states, 29 to be exact, pre COVID. I'd fly to your city. Now we do it online and it's way more successful, more fun, and we have real teens involved. Here we go.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, once again, lots of students involved in our programs. We have weekly live events. Don't forget to join them. Your district is a partner. They are 45 minutes long. There's lots of free giveaways at the end. There's teen-led videos in them, a premium parent newsletter. And here's what's happening in other districts. After you attend an event, here's the impact it makes on the district.
Many kids as young as 10 years old will be unwrapping a cell phone for Christmas, but one school district is offering parents a gift this year, a tool to help them protect their kids using their cell phones.
It's really about safety. It's about safety of our learners.
Right now, College Community says about 400 parents are using the platform smartsocial.com that's covered by the district's general funding. The hope is to partner with parents so they're able to keep their kids safe.
There's this tool that they didn't grow up with, or they grew up with, maybe one or two apps on that tool. And now their students are living in this world. We just believe that, protecting students is not just confined to the 7-hour school day. Their safety is important to us beyond that.
Smart Social's founder, Josh Oak, says he's been speaking about safety tips at schools across dozens of states, now reaching even more families by hosting live online Q&As and providing parents pointers. The goal, preventing potentially dangerous situations, like chatting with strangers and cyberbullying.
You won't be there for them forever. We want to make sure they're resilient and awesome using these new tools, and that they come to you when they need you, and that they make wise decisions when you're not around.
College Community says parents have been giving positive feedback about the program as it continues to track students online.
Okay, so parents, as you attend these events, incidents go down. Attendance is up, incidents are down. We love that because our principals are feeling like principals again, which is really great. Also, parents, don't forget that if you register for any one of these events, you get a replay. We have different flavors of events all the time. And really exciting, we have a replay of every single event from the last 12 months. So you can dive in both English, Espanol, and Mandarin. All right, we're back with our guest. Doctor, let's talk about screen time and motivation. Such a big one these days. Probably one of the top 5 topics we talk about here. What is your advice to parents about the impact of screen time on motivation for homework, chores, and other important tasks for teens to be successful?
Well, like I say, the phenomenon that is the devices can hinder motivation for sure. If I'm on an app, and we are seeing that, I just get caught up on whatever the app may be. So we definitely have to leverage the instant gratification for long-term goals. And as a parent on motivation, be able to support them. How do you counteract that trend if they're on their device too much, whatever their interests, try to break it into smaller, more manageable habits so they can and will be able to navigate their own time and their own decision making versus, like I say, the instant gratification versus long-term goals. The sense of accomplishment that you can get from that as far as supporting your student and supporting your child, and your child also seeing that there's other things other than being on the device and just real-time interaction with their peers, interaction with their family is all part of it, but definitely promote a healthier student, a happier student, a more fostered environment where encourage goal setting and then actually have a long-term goal and engagement offline activities versus always having to be on a device. And currently in our district, we are a one-to-one district. So we do have devices for them. There's, once again, high tech and no tech days as far as that goes in the classroom, but that needs to be regulated, beneficial for all, and engaging the learning and the learner and keep the student engaged at home. Once again, there has to be some long-term goals for the motivation of the child.
Yeah, well said, Superintendent. Hey, Superintendent, I really want to thank you for coming out today. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
For the rest of you listeners and our viewers here right now, I want to remind you Smart Social has an incredible amount of live events. Gone are the days of me flying to your city or one of our staff members or even bringing out an expert that only 20 parents show up. Now we're serving 10 times to 100 times the amount of parents in every single community with no limit on size or language. And by the time you see this episode, all of these events will have happened, but their replays are available. Avoiding strangers in dangerous situations. In Espanol, live, really incredible. We're answering every single question. Understanding social media's impact on teens. If you missed this one, you come the next day, it's happening again. It's then in Spanish and it's in English a third time. And we have a replay of all of our other flavors. They're incredible. No one is ever left behind with Smart Social in this world. You've got avoiding strangers, disappearing messages, optimizing parental controls. You've got commenting online bullying, shining online, AI for student success. Every one of these programs is put together by a dozen of the best producers in the business. I came from Disney Studios. I should know it's important to make sure we get the best program in 45 minutes with a replay in your native language. We look forward to seeing all of you very soon. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Superintendent Spotlight and most of all for supporting smartsocial.com. And as always, my friends, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you do online. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.